What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Nacho Wrestling. Before we get started in today's video, I just want to say thank you guys so much for helping me reach 300 subscribers. I didn't think I would hit that number so quickly. It's just really amazing and I appreciate it. I know I've not been active on YouTube as much. I haven't posted in like 20-something days as I'm recording this, and I apologize for that, but I've been working on another project, which is my senior project, for my senior year of college, and I'm going to play a quick teaser for that right after this message, and then we'll get straight to the video. Welcome back to Nacho Wrestling, and in today's video, we are going to take a look at championship belts. And I want to be clear here before we go any further. I'm not looking at championship reigns. I'm looking at the designs of the championship belts and how they have evolved over time. With that out of the way, wrestlers have often said, if you're not fighting for a championship, then what are you fighting for? Championship belts are the most important piece of hardware in professional wrestling, and that is why it is so important to look at how they have evolved, from shitty pieces of leather straps to beautiful pieces of art put on display every week for everyone to see, unless you're the undisputed championship with Roman Reigns. Then we see that belt once a month. Let's dive into what makes a championship. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling. Just a few moments ago, I said how championship belts have evolved from leathered straps, and I was not kidding. If we go with what the WWE website shows us as the original WWE Championship, it is a front plate of the United States on a red leather strap that quite literally looks like a piece of gum. Ironically, the bigger issue that if this is the world title for the company, then it implies that the only thing in the world is the United States. It also looks like the maid in Florida would poke the stomach and leg and be pretty uncomfortable to wear. At some point after, we saw a mildly decent design referred to as Bruno's belt, and it is not terrible. The weird cop star side plates throw me off, but it is a huge leap from the red gum strap. After Bruno's long-ass title run, Pedro Morales would have that weird-looking felt strap belt that looked more like loungewear than title strap. We would still have a long way to go and would see a huge influx of titles. Some are redesigns, some are completely new original belts. One belt is still iconic to this very day, no matter how hard Billy Corgan tries to stain the legacy of the NWA. In the territories, we saw something of a universal rule being adopted by every promotion. Not only would they have territory local titles, whether it be the Western States Heritage Championship from WCW or the ECW Pennsylvania Championship, which took the idea of the old world title that I mentioned earlier and doubled down and made the title have the state shape on the front plate. But in this scenario, it does make sense since it's called the ECW Pennsylvania Championship, and that's when ECW was still referred to as Eastern Championship Wrestling. Apart from the huge influx of world titles, there was a belt that stood out like that one perfect donut in the dozen that you know tastes so good, but you already had two, and if you try to have another, you will just look like a fat piece of shit. The NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold, whatever you want to call it. The belt is arguably one of the most iconic belts of wrestling, among belts like the Big Gold Belt, the Winged Eagle, among many more which I'll talk about later. The belts would stay relatively the same for the next few years among all the promotions, with a few redesigns here and there, or more than a few if you were the WWF. During this era of no change post-territories is when we saw Ric Flair roll up to the WWF with the Big Gold Belt after leaving WCW. Still with the hair on his head, thankfully. We would eventually see huge changes with the titles once we entered the next big era of the wrestling industry. During the Monday Night Wars, two major companies had a rather decent lineup of belt designs. The WWF rocking the aforementioned Winged Eagle belt, and even though 1995 was a shit year for them, they had a good world title design. So that was something, right? WCW is also rocking my personal favorite belt of all time, the Big Gold Belt. There's a reason that Triple H brought that bitch back with a giant WWE stamp in the middle. The Big Gold Belt, which they originally introduced in 1991 after a whole debacle with the NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. And I know I'm butchering the timeline on that belt, and if you want me to do a whole video on the Big Gold Belt, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to do one. Apart from the main titles, the two companies had decent mid-card designs. The OG IC title design is also up there as one of the best titles. Doesn't matter if it had a black strap, white strap, yellow, it will always be a solid belt design. Too bad, during the Attitude Era, the main Intercontinental title design was that weird oval looking one that we also remember from the mid-aughts. As for the WCW mid-card belt, the major one that I know of is the WCW television title, which looked like every other title in WCW besides the Big Gold Belt. It had a random hint of red in there that I always found to stick out on WCW's titles, and I still don't understand why. Let me know why they use the red and blue in their belts a lot down in the comments below and what you guys thought about those designs. One thing that we saw happen during the WWF that would happen every so often from then on out is custom title designs. And if you are a huge fan of these, you can thank Stone Cold Steve Austin for that. I do believe that his Smoking Skull title was one of the first custom belts. And no, I'm not counting Ultimate Warrior having different colored straps on his world title and his Intercontinental title. That's not changing anything about the belt. It's just changing the base color that it's on. We are all also well aware of the unused 3D Brahma Bull title from The Rock, aka the Final Boss, aka the man that said, "Fuck Cody's story." Sorry, I'm recording this in the middle of WrestleMania season, and I'm just really into The Rock right now. All things being serious, we need to really look at where we are today. We have some of the most beautiful belt designs ever. Or we have gotten to see some of the most beautiful belt designs ever before they were terribly and mortifyingly redesigned. I must sing the praises of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and I cannot be more clear, not the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. I'm not a huge fan of the weird butterfly-shaped belt. I'm talking about the IWGP Heavyweight title, version 4 for all my day one New Japan sweaties out there. In my opinion, that belt is the literal best belt in all of pro wrestling, and the beauty and craftsmanship of that belt, it is my opinion. I could see a case could be made for the Big Gold Belt or the Winged Eagle Belt. Hell, maybe even the AEW title, because they did just kind of rip off New Japan for their belt designs. But the point of a championship is to make it look like the end goal, the top prize in all of the sport. And in my personal opinion, nothing captures that more for me than the fourth version of the IWGP World Championship. I do think there is something nice about what the WWE has going for them with the giant corporate branding on their belts, and I will talk about that in a minute. But before that, another beautiful example of championship belts that are the cream of the crop are actually sort of new. I'll be honest, I don't think I have ever seen a company go 5 for 5, but TNA having nothing but bangers for their new title designs when they wheeled out the TNA branding from the grave is an amazing thing to see, even if their product is hot garbage. Okay, let's talk about the giant W in the room. A lot of people, myself included, get rather annoyed these days by WWE and their lazy corporate design for the championships. The main issue, though, is that these championships work. Whenever a sports team wins the finals of their sports, whether it be the large football game that I cannot say, the Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, or World Series, the winning team is always seen hoisting up a WWE title along with their trophy to celebrate. This just helps get wrestling out there, plain and simple. And it helps get that cross-promotion money that WWE is so often craving. When Patrick Mahomes is wearing that WWE title, it lets people know that not only is WWE out there, but at face value, Pat Mahomes looks like a wrestling fan while wearing the belt, and thus his fans and Chief fans may check out a WWE show when they are in town. Not saying it happens all the time, but the obvious advertising is there, plain and simple. It is one of the main reasons people also fear a redesign of the AEW World title. And ironically, it kind of does need to happen since they have that refreshed logo and removed the All Elite Wrestling wording from the logo. I remember seeing a mock-up a few months ago of a new belt for AEW with a black emboss on the front plate AEW logo, and people having such a hissy fit online. And me personally, it didn't look too terrible. It helped the AEW stand out more on the front plate, and it wasn't on every single logo like how they have it on the side plates. Wrestling belts have come a long way, and just like wrestling itself, they still have a long way to go. Hopefully. Whether it was the early days with Bruno's belt, or the territory days of every state having their own world champion, or today with the logos plastered everywhere on the belts, they are still the trophies that the wrestlers are fighting for. And hopefully, just hopefully, the worst is behind us, with the Universal title being just a red and blue strap. And maybe we will see the WWE or AEW incorporate some positive elements of the past into the future of their championships. That is it for today's video essay. Let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comments below. Do you prefer championships of today with giant corporate logos on the front, or do you prefer the old style belts with more design elements involved? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for all things Nacho Wrestling. I will see you guys next time.